Hi guys, welcome back to another video, and today I have here the queen of orchids, Cattleyas Orchids for you. So I want to talk to you a little bit more about my journey with Cattleyas. I had other videos that I will link down below where I told you what was happening roughly with my Cattleyas back then when I was trying to save them, when I had no idea if I would have my Cattleyas blooming for me year after year. But moving forward, almost 5 years or more than 5 years later, since I acquired my first Cattleya, I have a full collection that's actually thriving. So once I want to tell you today is what happened to my Cattleyas, how they are doing now, but not only that, also tell you a little bit more about my challenge. So if you are following me here, you know that I live in a flat in London, so I didn't have enough light. I was using the wrong ratio of potting mixes with my Cattleya, also overwatering them. Lots of things happening. I lost many Cattleyas during my journey growing orchids, but today I have here a beautiful bloom for you. And not only that, I have other Cattleyas that are actually thriving. So I share with you my challenge, but also some of the things that I overcame and what are the new challenges, because when we gain experience, we also discover other issues. So without further ado, let's start talking about my beautiful journey with these beautiful flowers. So in the beginning, I had first Phalaenopsis as most orchid growers, and then I bought my first Cattleya, or I bought a couple of Cattleyas. I went a little bit crazy, especially during the pandemic, buying lots of hybrids online. Anyway, what I discovered back then is I was following other YouTubers, great YouTubers as well, learning a lot about video tutorials. I was reading a lot about orchids, so I was doing different things to learn more about how to grow and to look after these plants. However, I live in London, and what happens in London? I have a specific climate. I don't have super bright light available for me all year round. I don't have a super warm temperature all year round. And all the methods that I was trying to replicate was usually based on people that live in much hotter or warmer environment, which is fine, but didn't work for me. So I had to grab my plants, trying to understand what happened to them. And back then, what happened to my orchids was the light wasn't enough. So not only I had growing light, but also was not making my Cattleyas. My Cattleyas were not blooming, but even before they bloom, I using a lot of sphagnum moss while I was repotting my plants, and I was repotting them very often. What happened in the process is I was overwatering with moon moss. I was having a serious case of root rot. Cattleya roots are very sensitive to repotting without a lot of information, without noticing for having new growths sprouting, without noticing that I have a mature growth that is starting to push out roots. And all of these factors combined, plus pests, because I had a massive infestation of thrips, made me lose many Cattleyas. And when I didn't lose the Cattleyas, I set them back a lot. So I noticed that with my Cattleyas, I was having lots of issues. The growths were not really impressive. They were weaker when I had growths. On top of that, I was basically losing one plant after another, and I was not having Cattleya blooms. And I noticed that the process of growing new growths was very slow for my Cattleyas. So what was the fix to all of these? Was basically noticing, if you see that I always film here because that's the brightest spot in my house, it's where I have the southern light exposure, and since I live in a country that's up north of the equator, that's where the brightest light is. And since I don't live in a tropical country, we don't have a super strong light exposure anyway. So placing my Cattleyas near these windows was one of the best things that I did. Some of these Cattleyas, especially these big ones, my growing lights are not strong enough for them. They don't enjoy the growing light as much as they do enjoy these bright windows here. They push out the best growths when they push out the best blooms, but only the light didn't do the trick. I know that my home environment, it's usually more towards the intermediate type of temperature, so the water won't dry super fast, especially during winter, spring, and autumn. I will have water trapped in these pots if I don't have the adequate mix and also if I do overwater my plant. So I decided to reduce dramatically the amount of moss that I was potting my plants with, adding just a little bit of moss and a lot of bark because I then made sure that these roots were receiving proper humidity but also have a right balance of air and humidity and were actually drying out between watering. Some of them I don't even water every week, sometimes I water them every 2 weeks and they are doing super fine. Other things that I have to change was to adapt to my repotting routine. So I remember buying orchids and going and repot them straight away. Nowadays, especially with Cattleyas, I prefer to have my Cattleyas growing out of the pot, having lots of new growths out of the potting mix, than repotting my Cattleyas very often. Why? Because in my environment, they will not grow super fast most of the year. If it's not summer here, these plants will receive a little bit less light anyway. What happens is it's not warm, so all of the conditions that in tropical forest that will make the plants grow super quick and super fast, these conditions I don't have them inside my home. I can try to mimic it a little bit, but it will never be the same. So for me to be able to have these plants super healthy, I prefer to wait them to grow many growths, become very stable plants. And when I see there is not more space whatsoever, the potting mix is very old, then is when I attempt to actually go and repot my orchid. Some Cattleyas will have an eye. This eye will push out a completely new growth. And then when the new growth is mature, then this plant will push out roots. Other Cattleyas will have very small growths, and then these small growths will already push out roots. So you need to understand your plant a little bit more to know when to repot it. On top of that, mostly Cattleyas will lose their old roots when you repot. They are very sensitive with repotting. They prefer to be stable in their potting mix and the environment without being disturbed. I would say that most plants are like that, but Cattleya roots are very, very sensitive. And if they are distressed, even a little bit distressed, they can die, they will be completely gone, and your plant will actually be dehydrated, will get ill, and if you have pests or some other disease, from this to your plant actually dying is very, very quickly. For this reason, I prefer to have a very stable Cattleya, full of roots, full of nutrients before I repot it. So I know that even if I set it back, it will still survive. So these were some of the things that I learned. And now, finally, I have a blooming success. So noticing all the things that I told you, finally I'm capable of having new Cattleyas, and these new Cattleyas will have roots. These roots will grow, will actually fill my pot, and some Cattleyas like this one, that's a Cattleya that bloom yearly, will push out these beautiful flowers every year for me, and they are gorgeous. I love them. I think they are big, fluffy, perfumey, colorful, all of the good things, all the things that we like in orchids. I have other Cattleyas, such as, goodness me, this one here, that's a very tiny Cattleya. This one blooms multiple times a year, and it's one of these Cattleyas that can be grown, not be exposed to a super bright light, and will still bloom. So it's a bit of an exception from most Cattleyas that we find locally. But this Cattleya, nonetheless, it's a cutie. I have Cattleyas here that had sheath. These sheaths are swollen, full of buds inside. I have Cattleyas that are done blooming now. So I can say that I had multiple Cattleya blooms during the year and in the past at least 2 to 3 years, which is amazing because I discovered that Cattleyas is one of my favorite type of orchids. So not only that, but I do have Cattleyas full of growths spread all around this window here. And just to give you an update, I have Cattleyas that have never bloomed for me, so I haven't seen them in bloom yet, and I can't wait to see them in bloom. I bet they will be beautiful. And they are so rewarding as well. Of course, success will bring new challenges, and let's explore some of the new challenges that I have in here. First of all, space. Some Cattleyas are super big plants or maybe super large plants as well, and they require that space. I don't have a lot of space with super bright light in my flat. So, as I told you, these windows here is my preferred spot for my Cattleyas. Also, I have some growing lights. They're a bit stronger and I have a couple of Cattleyas growing there. If I would like to buy more Cattleyas, I would have to have more space to offer them with a super bright light. Unfortunately, I don't have much space, so this is one challenge and I know which type of light they need. So if I decide to have more Cattleyas, I need to be prepared to offer them this type of light. Another thing is that I have Cattleyas that are growing completely out of their pots. As I told you, I do avoid repotting them very often, but some of them are becoming beasts, super unruly as well. Usually Cattleyas, because they are Sympodio orchids, they have a stem that will grow horizontally, so this stem will keep pushing new growths. Some Cattleyas will grow and we have let's say a larger, longer stem, and they will keep climbing and growing all out of the pot. These offer a challenge as well, that's watering, because if most of the live part of the plant is out of the pot, ideally you should have a little bit more like a higher humidity, or at least find a way of watering these roots from time to time, which is a little bit more time consuming, so that's also another challenge. So some of the Cattleyas that were struggling years ago, they haven't bloomed for me yet, and that's another challenge. They were so set back, and some orchids, depending on how set back they are, they will take years to become mature plant again and to be able to bloom. With my Cattleyas, it's no different. So I have Cattleyas here in these shelvings. They haven't bloomed for me not even once in their life, although now they are full of roots, full of growths, and they are being exposed to the brightest light that I can offer them. They are receiving fertilizer and I can see that they are healthy. However, they haven't bloomed. I have one that bloomed for the first time last year. That was one of these Cattleyas, the ones that were set back, struggle a lot. So when I saw the bloom, I was super happy because I was like, oh, finally, gives you this sense of accomplishment. I managed to grow a Cattleya and I managed to bloom it even after being managed out by pests, going through all of my mistakes. The plant survived and is now finally thriving. So I do have like maybe 3 or 4 from this group of Cattleyas that haven't bloomed yet, but hopefully one day I'll be able to show you these plants. So just to let you know, if a Cattleya is severely set back, definitely will take some time for it to bounce back. It depends from hybrid to hybrid and species to species. Some of them grow a little bit faster than others, but yeah, be ready to wait for them. And then third challenge that I have in here is the fact that I'm dealing with pests. As always, it's normal, especially when I have so many plants. But what attacked my Cattleyas the most, now that I learned how to control thrips were the worst because these plants were not blooming. It was basically killing my plants. Apart from thrips, the other thing that affect my Cattleyas are scales. So I showed you, I think 2 or 3 videos ago, some white scales that were munching some of my Cattleyas. So yeah, these white scales, they for some reason they love Cattleyas. It's one of their favorite plants. And even with me using rubbing alcohol, I tried other pesticides. They're still there because they will hide in the potting mix. They will hide behind the eye of my Cattleya or here behind the sheath. Every time I look, I will see something that is showing me that this plant have had scales or has scale at the moment. So one of the things that I have to be very aware and I keep looking for is scales. There are some Cattleyas that I noticed that have it at the moment, and like every week I have to go and rub alcohol and clean it because otherwise it will keep spreading and I will keep multiplying, unfortunately. So that is something that I have to deal with. The difference is now that I know what is actually affecting my plants somehow and how to fix it. So it's much more manageable than before when I was just trial and error and seeing what was working and not working, and maybe not even understanding what was happening. And I was losing many plants on the way, so it was a bit frustrating and something that I would say, not that I regret, but I wouldn't do again if I start a collection of orchids. It's just like looking at many orchids and it's like, oh, I want to buy this and that because it's for sale. Sometimes just wait a little bit because there will be other plants for you to experiment with. Don't spend a lot of money because plants, they will die on you, especially if you have no experience. So try things that would be a bit easier, that you are more comfortable with, or maybe buy one Cattleya, try with this Cattleya first, and then you can actually buy a little bit more or buy other orchids. But that's personal, that's what I learned, that's what worked for me. So I have beautiful Cattleyas nowadays. So after 5 years, here are some key lessons for you growing Cattleya in a not so perfect or so ideal environment. 1. Adapt the care to your home environment. So don't follow any generic advice. Try to understand how your own environment works and maybe even understand if that's the right environment for the type of plant that you want to grow, especially Cattleyas. And if you do have a bright window, if you have some intermediate temperature, you can do it. Balance your potting mix. If you have zero experience, start with bark. Then you can try using other types of mix and see if it will work for you and for your plants, especially your Cattleyas. For me, it's usually organic mixes. I don't have time to actually buy different mixes and experience with them, not at the moment. But I did discover that I can use sphagnum moss if I just add a little bit among the bark layers. So it's like the perfect combination. 3. Don't repot it very often. You can actually have some time between repotting, wait for your plant to grow, mature, have like 4 or 5 rows. So if you don't have any experience, your plant will have enough energy to bounce back. Really, really important to allow your plant to grow. With me, I noticed that my Cattleyas can grow out of the pot. They will be in a better state than if I keep repotting them and dividing them. Number 4, give them the brightest spots that you have in your house. Only if you live in a place that is very close to the equator or a very hot country, like a Mediterranean climate. I don't know, there are some other climates in the world that are very, very hot. Then it's a bit different, be careful. But if you live in a place with intermediate type of climate, you can definitely keep your Cattleyas in the brightest spot possible. They will enjoy it, they will push out new growths, and they will keep blooming for you. But as I told you, everything depends on where you live. If you live in a very, very hot climate, you always have to be careful so your plant won't dehydrate or will get scorched, like having a problems with burning their leaves. But that is honestly only if you live in a very hot country. Otherwise, you can offer them the brightest spot. At least that's how it works for me. And number 5, patience is key. I think when you're growing Cattleyas, it's just like being patient, taking some time to observe the roots, observe growth, observe the flowering. And more than that, it should be okay. Even if your Cattleya it's a bit set back, you can wait for maybe years, and then your plant might be able to push out the sheath and bloom for you. Who knows? I hope that happens for you as well. And finally, I am excited to announce to you my YouTube membership program. Basically, you can join it, the same place where you actually subscribe to my channel and like my videos. You can also join the membership. I will offer some Q&As for members, also some short videos talking about my collection specifically for members. We can have some chats, and there are some badges as well that I created with different orchid colors. So depending of how long you are a member of this channel, if you have any other questions, please let me know. But most important, hit the like button, leave a comment down below, subscribe to my channel because it does help me a lot. And which type of content would you like to see here? I was thinking about showing you my collection that is in one of the bathrooms and my bedroom. I didn't do it yet when I was updating you when I came back from Brazil. And there are other ideas that I also have in my mind. But I'd love to know what you'd like to hear and what you'd like to see here. And that's it. I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.